of DadPod with my man Erick Fayard here, joining me on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Eric, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Right on. Still breathing, still living, standing, whatever.
Absolutely.
Living the dream, as they say.
Always a plus, especially in these times.
Green side of the dirt's a good place to be, right?
Amen.
Hell yeah. So I asked Eric to come on because he's one of the people I enjoy talking to most on this planet, and I figure you guys would enjoy what he brings to the table here. So we're gonna freewheel it and see what happens, man.
Let's go.
Now as I kind of told everybody, sorry, I'm moving stuff as we're speaking.
It's fine.
In the little promo video, you are a local musician here, obviously.
Yeah.
By way of, you said you were Longview before, and then before that Shreveport, Bossier, right?
That's correct. Okay. In Louisiana, yeah.
Right on. So what? I want you to tell the story because I love the story. So what brought you to Texas?
I was originally a sports anchor on television in Louisiana, in Lafayette, Louisiana. I also did TV in Monroe, and I was a producer in Shreveport. Graduated from LSU with a degree in mass communications. My first weekend in Lafayette was the weekend that Katrina hit New Orleans. So immediately right off the jump. And I remember before I even took the job, I was actually up for a job at the competition. I got asked about that job in the spring. 2 months later, they took somebody else. And I was like, well, okay, cool. I guess I'm just going to stay in this in Monroe for another football season. We'll see what happens when this football season's over. 2 weeks later, the competition had the same job open.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, nah, it's too close. It's too close. Football season, we were in the middle of filming training camps. I'm just going to stay. Well, then my roommate at the time, he's like, this is what you wanted. And I was like, I don't have a good feeling about this.
Right.
There's a reason why this didn't happen. My vibe's not there. And we just went back and forth. And I was like, you know what? Do you want me to apply for this job? Okay, fine. Right. So I did. And I got the job.
Wow.
And went down there and met with the news director, signed my contract, handed him the contract. Not 5 minutes later, the chief meteorologist came in and said, boss, this hurricane that's projected to hit Miami, the numbers indicate it's going to slam right into New Orleans. And I was like, oh, great.
It's about to go
down.
And
it was Hurricane Katrina. So
wow.
That was my first weekend in Lafayette, even though Lafayette is 2 hours west of New Orleans. So, technically, it was wind and it was rain. It wasn't bad. But still, it was hurricane stuff. So, and then 2 or 3 weeks right after that was when Hurricane Rita hit the Texas-Louisiana line. So you had back-to-back hurricanes, and things just were upended. Things were thrown upside down, similar to what happens when a pandemic hits.
Right.
So long story short, I wasn't feeling it. I ended up getting out. And then moved back home to Shreveport, and then just couldn't find my footing there. Ended up in the nightclub business, learning how to DJ, and doing that, and then ended up taking a job in Longview, Texas, which I had two options, by the way. I could either get back into TV, going back to Monroe, the same job that I had, or starting something new, moving to Texas. I've always wanted to live in Texas and do this different job. Well, it turned out the money in Texas is a little bit better than what the money was.
Sure.
So I took that and started a brand new chapter. And I'll never forget, it was really weird. Like, when I was driving out, going west on Interstate 20, crossing the state line, it felt like the old me died.
Yeah.
So there was a couple of weeks where, man, it's not going to be this good. I'm working at this country bar, whatever. But little did I know that my roommate, who I just met at the time, his name is Garth Agrone.
Oh, it was Garth?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he's like, hey, man, I got a job in Carthage. You can stay here. Just pay me a little bit of money a month, and you can this is your place now. I was like, man, I appreciate it. And it was a funny place. It was in White Oak, Texas, which is a small town west of Longview.
Okay.
And it was this condo, and there was nothing in it. All right. So no furniture. There was more furniture in the kitchen, which, by the way, was lawn furniture, that plastic stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one of those old school digital AM FM radios that was on the classic country station. So whenever you would get off of work,
nice,
which would be 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, because you're managing a nightclub, you got to pay them, you got to do your deposit, you got to do your bags and all that kind of stuff, get the deposit right, drop off the deposit at the bank, and then go home. No social life.
Yeah.
So So for about a week or two, that's what I did. I made sure there was beer in the fridge, a bottle of Southern Comfort in the freezer. I would listen to the country songs on the radio and just kind of unwind and then wake up and then go to work and just do it all over again. Right. Well, I noticed there was one thing in the living room, and it was a beat up acoustic guitar.
Oh, no kidding.
And you've heard the story 1,000 times, not just from me, but from other people.
Yeah.
I've always, in the back of my brain, wanted to give music a go. Yeah. So here I am, like, I'll worry about it later. Well, then, the show that really got me into music was I got to see Garth Brooks at Texas Stadium in 1993.
No kidding.
When he was on the cables, and we were upper deck, Texas Stadium, looking down on the stage, and he came right at us.
No kidding.
Right? Yeah. So I was, and then we're in the car, and Dad was like, well, "What'd you think of the show?" And I was like, "I want his job."
Yeah.
Everybody laughed at me, and I was like, "No, I want to do that." Mm-hmm. 14 years old.
Yeah.
Well, football happened, girls happened.
Yeah. Like you do.
And I just remember I want to be Garth Brooks. That's what that was. And then get to college, and then college happens, and it just gets thrown by the wayside.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2007.
Yeah.
Thinking my life was over, and there's an acoustic guitar. I have nothing to do. Mm-hmm. When I get home, it's looking at me. I'm looking at the guitar, going, let's learn how to do this.
Right.
Next day, went to work, printed 30 pages of how to play guitar and just like the basic chords. Learn this one. 6 months, my fingers bled learning how to, learn what this one is, how that works. And then the next step took me 6 months how to transition from an A to an E.
Right.
Learning how they go together. And a year later, I'm writing a song.
Yeah,
and then that's kind of how that built up. And it's amazing when you think that it's over.
Yeah,
is really when it begins.
Yeah,
so
open, right?
So that's how my music thing started.
That's awesome. What was the first song you wrote on the guitar?
The first song I wrote on that guitar was a song called, I think it was called "Before Goodbye."
Okay.
There's a recording somewhere in the United States, somewhere,
floating around somewhere,
and it was about that girl, she did me wrong kind of song, and I sang my ass off on it, and I thought it was good, but then you go back and you're going, that song was garbage.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing. Your first songs that you write, they're gonna be garbage, and but then you come up with another one, and then I think the next one that I came up with was a song called 49.
Yeah, dude, I love that song.
Well, have you heard and I'll get to that later, but I actually. That song has gone through many rewrites.
Right.
Because you learn your circle of fifths. Like, you learn the things that they're the reasons why songs sound like they do. And we've gone through this tons of, like you and me, we've gone back and forth with this more than we can ever count. But, it was, you're like, okay, that's how that works. This needs to change. And you have other people hear it. And you're thinking, no, they'll get it. And they don't.
No, yeah.
And you're like, all right, well, I've got to fix that. And we'll get to that down the line.
Yeah.
But I think that was the next song that I wrote with that one. And then the third one I wrote was a song called Only for the Lone Star.
Yeah. Dude, and I am so in love with that song, too. I am so in love with that song,
That was the first song where people go, okay, you might be onto something.
There you go. Right.
Because at first people are like, you're doing what?
Right, yeah.
Like when you talk to people back home, how are things in East Texas? They're great. Well, what are you up to? I'm doing this, but I really got into music. They're like, oh, like how? Like, oh, what are you listening to? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, doing my own thing.
I think I want to record music.
Right.
Like karaoke?
Right,
no. I want to. Yeah, right. And then like you're serious about it? Yeah, and they go, I love you, man. Whatever. Right. Good luck. And it's just, it's just how that went. And then finally, you play something for people, and they go, okay,
yeah,
maybe so. So
anyway,
that's kind of how that jumped and got to start there.
Awesome. Yeah, and I, Lonely for the Lone Star, and I've kind of talked about this on the ammo box stuff we've been doing so far. You've been gracious enough to allow us, Southern Oak Band, to record a couple of your songs.
Yeah.
First one being Rain, which is in the can. It's already ready to press release. We're ready to rock and roll.
And you
with
did a great job with that.
I really appreciate that, man.
And that's something else that I wanted to say it takes a long time whenever you're writing your own stuff, and you don't realize it. But once you hear somebody else put something together that you wrote,
interpret it a little bit,
differently, but still you let somebody do. There's no greater gratification to a songwriter,
right,
than to hear somebody else sing something that you wrote.
Right.
It took me a long time, but once you hear, you're like, dude, that was cool.
Right.
You know, so I mean, just that gratification, one, and two, what you did with it. I was over the hill.
Right on. Well, thank you.
You did great.
I really appreciate that, man, especially coming from you.
So I'm like, well, hell, what else? Right. You want to do something else? Right. Yeah, great.
Lone Star's in the works. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the next one. I'm putting a little magic on that one.
I'm eager to hear that too.
And and I love that song because it is cowboy chords, but it's not cowboy chords in your normal cowboy chord song. You know what I mean? My appreciation for you as a songwriter is how your raw intention behind your music comes out. You know what I mean? It's not pretentious. You're not trying to write like a specific Nashville pop sound. You have your own idea of what you have in your head noise wise, based on what you know. You know what I mean? And the fact that you've kind of progressed through this journey and added to that and expanded and watched, and you know, I've been fortunate enough to watch you grow as a musician over like what 5-6 years now. We've known each other, right? A good little while. As somebody who's spent his entire life doing this, watching somebody who picked it up, and I don't want to say late in life, but relatively late in life, in comparison, right? Yeah. Watching your transition from songwriter who's got the basics down to songwriter who now can express himself, through not only the knowledge of the noise, but through your lyrics as well. You were one of the best lyricists I've ever had the pleasure of working with, man. You are phenomenal when it comes to painting a picture, even when it's simple. Like Rain is a really simple lyric, right? But it paints a very specific picture. And that's again one of those things I appreciate about you, the way you make music so much, is that you have that raw ability to just, okay, this is what it is, this is what I want to lay out, this is what I want to convey, boom, there it is. And the way you do it is just so honest and so real, and I effing love it. And dude, I'm super excited. Like third album this upcoming year, third album is going to have "Lonely for the Lone Star" on it, and we're already working on it. So making some magic little touches about it. So and at some point, obviously, I'm going to invite you to come out and hang out with us at rehearsal for Southern Oak, man. To kind of, if you want to put a little 2 cents or whatever, and I would love to have your input for sure.
Oh, of course.
And my thing is, like kind of we were talking about earlier, the reason that I do all of this, right, all of this podcast, ammo box stuff, is because at 43, I've been at this since I was like 16. I started getting paid to make music at 16. It was, granted, it was street performer's license from downtown Fort Worth. You go up to the top floor of the Wells Fargo building on Commerce there, and they give you a little badge. You bring a little organ. My buddy Jeremy brought his little guitar, and we put a tip jar and made money. Yeah. And as somebody's been doing it for as long as I have I'd like to think that I have like a kind of a unique bent on what is and is not good music.
Sure.
And being in a position now where I can put together this stuff relatively easily, you know what I mean? And I'm not tooting my own horn because I've got relatively inexpensive equipment. I've talked about this on podcast before. I didn't spend a butt ton of money making this the most professional, outstanding, blah, 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 whatever it is. I just wanted to get noise out there. I wanted to share people's noise, people's stories, because I think that's where a lot of disconnect kind of happens in modern music, right? Yeah. It's very plastic. It's very, I don't want to say plastic, but it's very orchestrated, right? It's very scientific in their approach about how they evoke a specific emotion using a specific sound. And I get it. There's a 100% valid validity behind doing that. But what I want to do is on a local level, especially here in Fort Worth. We know a bunch of the same people, between Rodney Moore and Will Hancock and James Norred, and God rest Rodney's soul. We know a lot of the same people in this game, and they have had very, to me, based on what I've seen, they've had very little exposure on the big mass market feel. You know what I mean? And that could be due to a whole bunch of things, whether it's just a lack of a lack of insight on how to use some of the tools that you have available, or just a lack of time, which I get because, full-time dad, full-time employee, trying to run a podcast and build an empire. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy, and I get it. But because I have resources available to me, I wanted to build this as a way to say thank you to you guys, because you guys, as a musician, you guys have been a huge influence on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The F-Back project that we had a little while back, and that's an interesting story we'll get into in a little later. That was one of the most fun things I had done in a long time. You know what I mean? Because it was somebody who was, and I don't say this to discount your music talent, but it was somebody who was relatively new into the game of making and producing and orchestrating that kind of noise.
Yeah.
That I kind of got to again watch kind of grow into it and flourish.
I got it. I know what you meant.
And it's been a great opportunity for me, obviously, because it's afforded me a lot of time I shouldn't say time, but it's afforded me a lot of inspiration to kind of come up with stuff, right? And figure out ways that I can get you guys out in front of people, So that's why we do this. And I am super thankful and super grateful that you chose to sit down with us for a little while and talk about this stuff. So,
absolutely.
Having
it's
said
cathartic.
that, yeah, for sure, right? For sure. We spend a lot of time, focused on how can we help other people in our daily jobs? I mean, you're in face-to-face customer service just like I am, and it's a lot of stress about, okay, how can I either avoid a crappy situation, or how can I make a crappy situation that's already happened better? When we sit down like this, we can just kind of talk about what it is that we love, which I, for me personally, obviously, is music, and I know that it would tend to be the same for you.
Sure.
So I told you in a text message earlier, I'm just giddy. I get to do this.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
that's
for
great,
sure, man. For sure. So you said you got to Longview around 2007.
2007. Right? I'll never forget it. It was June 30th, 2007, and I drove in to Longview and immediately started my job. I was an assistant manager at Graham Central Station in Longview, Texas.
Oh, wow.
The building is still there. It's just now an electric cowboy.
Right.
And I'll never forget just my first taste of Texas. The doors opened at 7 p.m. that Saturday night. The room was full before 9 because I think that's when the drink special ended.
Yeah.
It was like $1 drinks until 9 o'clock on a Saturday.
Get them in early, right?
And the thing was, they were like, "You're going to be by the front door. You're checking IDs. That's your job." Right, cool, great. And I would do that, and I just remember seeing the arsenal. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think that word it does it justice. The arsenal of gorgeous women that were there. And the thing that got me was the legs. I've always been I'm a leg guy.
Yeah, sure, so, fair enough.
The legs and the boots, and I was like, yeah, I can get used to this, So
it's a different monster out here, man.
Ooh, son. And I guess I never really paid attention to it in Louisiana, maybe, but it was just different, and it was like I felt, I don't want to say born again, but it really was. I mean, it's a new chapter. I don't know anything about this. You just shut your mouth and listen.
Revived, right?
Well, I mean, I don't even go that far at that point yet, The picking up the guitar now, on the other hand, that was, I was like, oh, okay, this is chapter 2.
Right.
So, but yeah, that was the thing. And then fast forward into putting songs together, learning how to play them. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I want to record. Yeah. So this was 2009. And my roommate at the time, Chris Malone, I told him, I was like, hey man, I'm going to record some songs I've written. He goes, you haven't written any songs? I was like, oh yes, I have.
Watchful.
And he said, okay, all right, what are you gonna do some like karaoke recordings? Like, no, I have songs that I've written. And he's like, well, I've only heard 2 of them. I'm like, well, I've got more.
All right.
Where'd you write them? I was like, when you were at work and I had the day off, this was what I was doing, and I put together it's 8-track. There's a CD out there that I found out one of my buddies still has.
No kidding.
I'm petrified to hear.
Yeah.
Because I forgot what they sound like. Right. But what I did was had an acoustic guitar, rented a laptop from Rent-A-Center.
Oh, no kidding.
Okay. And then bought the interface. I was like, oh, wait, this is all it takes. So I went to the Munt Music in Longview, was the music shop, and I paid $300 worth of microphone, cables, interface, the software. I forget what is it? Was it Sony Acid? Oh,
wow. Mid old school.
Oh, yeah, it was 2009.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what the hell I was doing and just put it together, and then figured out, oh wait, you can do effects on it, and then just it's out there and it's all acoustic, but they were original songs. Yeah. I wrote them, and people were like, oh, okay, here it is, and they listen, they go, and some of them like, wow,
right,
not great, but not bad. It was it was kind of the response that I wanted.
Right. And at least confirmation you're moving in the right direction.
Better yet, it was I didn't get the response I feared, which was, this is total garbage.
Yeah.
You know, don't quit your day job. But they were like, not bad. But yes, that was 2009. We're in 2022. I'd be scared to listen to that, but also at the same time, why not put it out there?
Right.
Compared to what I've done now and what is coming.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure, and that's part of what, like. So one of my favorite people on the planet is a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. If you haven't heard of him, check him out. He's a genius, brilliant guy. But he talks about putting yourself out there, right? And honestly, most of your most of your YouTube creators will hit you with the same kind of advice, right? Especially for the beginning, just do it.
Yeah.
Don't try to plan it. Don't overthink it. Don't try to be all, I need to be professional, right? It's not going to happen. The first, and some, I think it's vidIQ and a couple like Think Media. Some of those guys are like, first 100 videos are going to be garbage. Yeah. Put them in a separate folder, put them in the bottom of a playlist, and bury them. Whenever you get to the point where you hit your monetization rates, bury those things back on the back corner of YouTube, right? Because it's not going to be great.
Right.
You know what I mean? And believe me, I have hard drives of stuff floating around on computers and laptops that I have sold or pawned or whatever to make it that people probably have right now. And if they were smart, they would pull all those little tracks off of stuff that sitting in a room like this, you know what I mean, and interface a piece of software, just like you said, a piece of software, you know what I mean, a laptop. I used to build my own PC, so they were pretty decent at keeping up. But even still, I mean, it was my Frankenstein box of nuggets of copper and wires that I got to record with, and I never put them out. I always kept them kind of on my hard drive and just kind of safekeeping to see, let's see what happens with them later. And part of me regrets it because obviously they're gone now. You know what I mean? As I moved through computer literacy, I started backing things up on giant hard drives and make sure I had all that stuff. I am almost terrified of somebody saying, I have Mike's old Dell, it's Inspiron 7 series, blah, 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 from 2007 that he recorded this whatever thing. I mean, I'd actually gone so far, don't tell anybody this, but I kept my old sheet music from high school.
Hey.
I kept my old choir sheet music from high school. Sorry, Miss Townsend, I love you. You're the best. I had like stacks of music like this, dude. And I kept all my favorite ones, and one of the ones that I liked was a song called Elijah Rock, written and arranged by a guy named Moses Hogan. If you're in the choral world or the chorus world, he's a huge famous name. He's made some of the most incredible, I don't want to say Negro spiritual, but kind of pseudo Negro spiritual music on earth. And I was infatuated with that song since high school. So I moved out to Austin, kind of got myself set up, and got my little computer and my little rig set up with my little microphone and stuff. And I just started recording vocal parts because I knew all of them. I'd spent years with them in high school, so I knew all those parts. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna hit record and just record the extra parts. So there's a recording of me doing some obscure chorus arrangers version of Elijah Rock on some laptop somewhere, floating around the universe. Yeah, right.
Oh wow.
And I actually had a thought about that the other day. I was like, I'd still have some of that music. I would love to go back and do some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Purely as a me project, you know what I mean? Just because I grew up with it. But
hey, you're allowed to do that.
We can indulge ourselves every once in a while, whatever. So, it's one of those things where no matter what it is you do at the first little bit, Brandon Ferris, comedian on YouTube.
I think so.
His channel is called I Am Brandon Ferris. The old redheaded skinny kid from Kansas, moved out to Alaska and California, blah, blah, blah. And basically got to the point where he was homeless.
Oh.
Right? And living out of his Prius in California. He lost his job, right? Because he went to California to be a comedian and get into show business, right? Yeah. Lost all of it. was living out of his Prius, and committed to himself that he was going to make a video every day until he hit. And what he did is he sat in his car every day for like 3 years making videos, just putting them out on YouTube, just putting them out, seeing what happens, right? And boom, fast forward 6 years now, he is insanely successful with one of the bigger YouTube channels on the planet. He's got like 11 million subscribers, and he's literally just this dude. One of my favorite things he does is called Google Translate, right?
Okay.
So what he does is he takes recipes, puts them into Google Translate.
Oh, no.
Translates them back and forth between English and then other random languages, and like 20, 30 times until he gets some gibberish.
Oh,
and then stands in his kitchen with the recipe that Google gave him, Google Translate, and executes the recipe.
What?
It is the funniest thing, and they're like 6 minute videos, 8 minute videos, right? At the max. And they're just him being funny. Him being funny with a plethora of improvisational material to just riff off of, you know, put 6 Carter eggs in the chicken wheel at 40, you know what I mean? For just random words that come back translated. It is the funniest effing thing I have come across in a long time on YouTube, and I like went down the rabbit hole for like 6 years of his videos.
Oh, wow.
And they just get funnier and funnier and funnier and funnier, and you kind of, but part of what builds that appeal that I found is that people connect with him, right? Because he tells that story. He's honest.
Yeah.
At the very upfront, say, hey, you know, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm trying to get accomplished. If you guys like it, great. Share it. If not, I guess I'll just live in my car. But the first, recently he came up, getting back to what we were talking about. Recently, he, I guess about a year ago, he did a video of just kind of explaining his journey, right? Going over his journey. And in his first little section of that video was going over, just do it. The first stuff you're going to do is going to be garbage. And I figure if some, you know, local kid who's literally got zero money, got no job, got a car that's barely paid for, you know what I mean, can commit to himself to sit down in front of an iPhone a couple hours a day and then edit it at night while he's sleeping in his car. Dude, all right, give me a table and a room and a couple cameras. We can do something.
Yeah.
Right? And that kind of inspiration is really what draws me to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It makes sense that we would at least try it.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Especially with the access that you and I have to all kinds of people, you know, whether famous or otherwise. I mean, both of us have been in the industry enough. We've shaken hands with some hobnobbers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'd never drop any names on the podcast, at least not yet. We're not big enough for me to do that. Once we have like 200 episodes and we've got 20 million subscribers, yeah, then maybe we'll talk about that.
Well, then at that point, the big names will be here.
We'll be not, you know, and which is okay.
Cool.
Maybe, you know, if you're cool, I'm cool. I don't, you know, I'm not.
Yeah.
I've been dealing customer service long enough. I know better. But yeah, it's one of the more fascinating things that I've found in the podcast game or the YouTube. I don't want to say influencer game because I'm not necessarily trying to be an influencer. I'm just trying to be honest with people and bring them stuff that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And if it takes off, great, perfect. If it doesn't, I'm gonna keep doing it because I have all the stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I figure I might as well
get your money's worth.
Yeah, right. And I'm gonna push pause real quick.
Okay.
Which means I'm gonna let everything run. You can talk whatever you want to. I gotta pee.
I gotta pee too.
Perfect. Then we'll just leave the cameras running and I'll edit out the bullshit in the middle.
Okay.
Cool. All right. See you back in a minute.
All right. It's your house, your home team, so I'll give you first dibs.
I got 4 bathrooms, bro. Use the one over here and the one upstairs. Game on. Game on. He returns, ladies and gentlemen. Coming to the other table.
Wait. There we go. And we're back.
Right on. So, Longview 2007, 2009, start recording. What moved you over here to the DFW side? What brought you this way?
Okay, so I had finally started playing gigs on my own in 2012, 2013. Referred to it as my rookie year.
Right.
It was like, this ain't gonna be perfect. Probably won't even be too good, but just go ahead and get the reps and just keep keep ironing it out. Well, so the job I was working at the time, you know, things had gotten stale. I had played the places where I was gonna play. It got into a very stale routine, and I needed a change, and I didn't know what what the avenue was gonna be, and then finally something had happened. I was at a bar and a fight broke out, and it went outside. My car was parked right by the front door, and people were throwing rocks, and my back window got shattered. And I was like, and I don't know if you've ever been in, I'm sure you have, a situation you go, okay, this is enough. Like, whenever I was still living in Baton Rouge after graduation, I was like, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
Or, and this was one of those times, like, yeah, right, time for a change. Well, I got a phone call, or actually, no, I was looking for jobs in Dallas, and I saw one on Craigslist. And it was, hey, brand new club looking for bartenders, barbacks, such and such, DJs. I was like, hey,
on it.
I'm a DJ. So, and I called him, and I said, hey, I'm a DJ in East Texas. I saw this ad. Have you found any DJ yet? Like, no. When can you come over and come check it out? And I was like, well, I can come over tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow. Great. Get over here. And went to the building, and it was off of, I think it was Regal Row. So, and I didn't know anything about Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah.
I didn't know. It was like right when 35 hits 183.
Yep.
It was in that area, the industrial area or whatever it was. And it was just this open building. And I was like, okay, cool. And they were telling me about, the club and whatever else. And they're basically, they really didn't go much into detail about what exactly this was. And they basically asked me what my musical influences were, who I knew, if I knew formats and whatever else, which I did, and I knocked it out of the park. And they said, all right, we're going to go ahead and offer you the job. Can you be here in 2 weeks? I said, yeah, sure. I'm like, all right, cool. Here's the date. I don't know the specific date of when the opening was, but it was a Friday. And I remember because on the TVs, it was the first night that Jimmy Fallon hosted The Tonight Show.
Oh, wow.
It was that day.
Yeah.
So there was supposed to be a big meeting with all the hired staff on that Tuesday leading up to that Friday.
Yeah.
That Monday night in Longview, I went out for one last hurrah because I'd already had somebody that was going to let me crash over here and kind of get started and get acclimated to where I was going to be, how long it was going to take to get to work, those kind of things. Well, I went out Monday night in Longview, closed the bar down, drinking beers, and then went to Taco Bell 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and had some Taco Bell. Didn't taste right. Went to sleep. Woke up the next morning.
Yeah.
Complete system reboot.
Yeah.
Both sides, north and south.
Everybody out. No 2 X's. No way.
And I called the manager of the place. I was like, look, man, here's what happened. I'm going to be honest with you. I went out last night. I plan on being in town for this. I've got it coming out both ways. I can't leave. Right. I had stuff in storage. All my stuff was in storage. All ready to roll. And the room that I was sleeping, where I was in at that time, was just empty and barren except for a blanket that I was like, please. Right. And it was just awful. I thought I was going to die. And then he was like, you better be back here at some point. Right. Because we're going to have to go another route if you can't be here. And I'm sitting there freaking out. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I mean, I was down for 2 or 3 days. Oh, wow. It was one of those bad ones to the point where that was 2014. That was the last time I've even eaten Taco Bell.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Super sour.
Yeah. So, eventually I got in the car and it was the day of. I was like, look, maybe this was not just a food poisoning thing. Maybe this was like a bug thing. Right. So I finally got back to somewhat 100%, got in the car, drove to Dallas. The club wasn't even built yet. They weren't even done.
Kidding.
They weren't even done, right? So it was just a complete cluster. Yeah. And I remember finally getting there, and they were like, okay, do you have your black shirt and your black? I was like, yeah, I got all that. And then I remember I'm looking around, and the music was jamming, and I asked the guy, and had I gone to that meeting, I probably would have known this, but I was like, where's the dance floor? Yeah. And they said, what do you mean? And right at that moment, I turn around, and there are 2 guys carrying a 20-foot brass pole into the building.
No,
and
got
I
it. Got it.
Wait a minute. And the guy goes, what did you think this was? Yeah. I said, no, you see, it's a new club hiring DJs and whatever else.
Yeah. It didn't say titty bar.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I said, and he looked at me and goes, is there a problem? And I said, I mean, well, he says, you've never DJed in a strip club before? I said, no, it was country bars.
Right.
And they went, well, can you do this? And I was like, well, and he said, have you been to a strip club? And I said, well, of course. And he said, have you ever DJed karaoke? And I said, yes. He goes, do that. And I went, okay.
Got it.
Here's what, and he said, the people are going to come, girls are going to come up here with what kind of music they like.
Right.
Here's the rules. No slow music.
Right.
Basically, that was it. No slow music.
Right.
And that was whatever else they want, go with it. I said, okay.
Anything above 90 BPM and we're good, right? Yeah.
No slow.
Yeah.
Put,
no ballads.
Put to bed. Yeah. No ballads. I was like, okay. He's like, throw a party. No matter what it is, just do that. That's fine. I said, okay, cool. And the place ended up being packed that night. And I found out how I got paid. Yeah. It was like, because they were like, oh, yeah, you're just going to make a server's wage. And I remember like the whole time going, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, this ain't going to happen. And then they go, no. The entertainers, they're going to tip you for what you play for them. If you take care of them, they're going to take care of you. I was like, I've heard that before. Right. But no, one of these girls said, hey, man, loved your music. Here's $40. Boom. Oh, thank you.
Times 25, right?
Next one. Yeah. Here's 20. Here's 10. Here's this. And it was just cash. And then my first night, I made $450. Right. And I went, yeah, I could do this.
Got it.
So yeah, I've never told that story in public, especially on a recording. But it ended up, long story short, the club didn't make it. Right. And then I had to go elsewhere. But that was what got me to Dallas.
Right on. Right on.
It was about a food poisoning. And just like you said, going on a whim because you needed a change, and you got over here. It's like, oh, surprise! Yeah, this is what it is. And of course, the historical factor of it, the fact that was the first night that Jimmy Fallon did the Tonight Show. It was my first night in Dallas, and I was able to make cash for one night. Going, okay, maybe I can do this.
Isn't that crazy how that works?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah. I remember when I moved to Austin, 2007. Right, was January 7th when they had the gigantic ice storm that rocked almost the entire state. Yeah. Right? The entire highway, I-35, was frozen from Oklahoma all the way down to like San Antonio. My mother and I are the only two people on 35 that day, because that was the day that I went down to sign my lease in Austin. Yeah. I got this 25-foot box truck rider behind me. My mom's in my poor little 2007 or 8 Ford Focus. That's got no weight, no traction. It's a manual, right? No power locks, no nothing. I mean, base model bitch car. And I got this box truck behind me, and sure enough, that was the day that my official Austin rig started. Wow. Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah. What was that year again?
2007.
Oh, 07.
Yeah.
What a coincidence. Yeah.
Right? I think we had that conversation before once, right?
Yeah.
All of our timing actually works out pretty well.
I'm saying.
And the journey begins, right? And that's funny. So because you moved towards the DFW, towards the Texas side of things in 07. I was moving south, and by the time 16 maybe 17 rolled around when you and I met.
15.
15. God, it has been. Lord have mercy.
Yeah, 2015.
I don't like the fact time passes like that, man. It's too fast. It's too much.
There's nothing you can do about it.
It's too intense. Use it while you got it, right?
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, I think it was right before, because our buddy, John, said, hey, we're going to watch Final Four at our buddy Michael's house. I said, okay. He's like, you want to go? I was like, absolutely. And John picked me up, and Wally was in the car too, and we came over to your old house. Yeah. And watched Final Four and started, oh, you like music? Oh, you like blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, and that's where that started. Yeah. The Final Four, 2015.
Yeah, crazy stuff, man. And that was a hell of a ride, too, man. That was Danny's Celtic Pub days.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Playing on that little tiny-ass stage.
And I'll never forget. That's a story I want to share.
And thank you, Danny's Celtic Pub, for, giving us an opportunity to do that. That was a huge thing.
I haven't been there. I need to go say hello.
Yeah, we need to make a trek back there at some point for sure.
Cheapest, best drinks in town.
Legit. And some of the best bartending ever.
Yep. And what's funny is like living in Dallas County now. I live in Addison. You would think, oh, you're gonna find a bar that has the same drink prices like that. No, not at all.
East of the airport's an extra 20%.
Yep.
Just the way it is.
It's fair and accurate. Yeah.
you know.
But no, that was funny. I remember, I'll never forget it, because once I had been established and going back to the club thing, I actually had another job too. I was doing promotions for wine and liquor in grocery stores and liquor stores all over Dallas-Fort Worth. And that was another funny story, getting my first taste of a Specs on 75 on a Saturday in like November,
Walmart
December.
Liquor stores.
It used to be a Toys R Us.
I'd
never seen anything like that before in my life, right? And I remember going, this is, I mean, especially for someone who loves to partake in adult beverages, I was like, this is magical. It had a little deli in it, right? And it just blew my mind. But I think it was around that time before that I just met John, and I was trying to figure out, I need to figure out how to get a gig here, just one. I don't care what it is, you know. And then that's when I found Danny's and met John, and I told him, I was like, hey man, I see that stage over here. Do y'all ever have anybody play? And he goes, yeah, but it's been a while. We don't, hadn't. I was like, could I play here? And they're like, you play music? And I was like, yeah, a little bit, you know. And he's like, well, I don't know. I'll introduce you to the owner, see if he wants to do it. And that went on for about 2 or 3 weeks. Right. And finally, I'll never forget, it was the night, it was a Sunday night, and the Cowboys were playing the Philadelphia Eagles, and if the Cowboys won, they would have won the division. Right. And John was like, don't come during this game because I'm going to be watching the game. I came during the game, and he was, I told you not to. I was like, and I said these words that will live in infamy. Dude, I'll play for free. Yeah. And the record scratch. And he looked at me, he goes, come with me. Yeah. The owner, the whole time, Keith, was sitting there chilling, watching the game. He goes, hey, this is Eric. I call him Coon Ass. He wants to play for free. Hey, Eric, how are you? I was like, hey, Keith, how are you? He goes, you'll play for free, huh? And I said, yeah. He goes, can you be here tomorrow night? I said, sure can. Yep.
I can now.
And that's the first gig that I ever had in Dallas-Fort Worth.
No kidding. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's you know, and Danny's is one of my all-time, because so John and I go back, God, almost more than a decade now. Mm-hmm. God, was it 2009-ish, I guess? No, even longer than that, because that was before I, anyway, either way, it's somewhere between like 6 and like 12, somewhere, I don't know. But we actually worked at a restaurant together. We were
Which
the two.
One?
Okay. So it was called Salt and Bocas. Remember Italiani's, the TJ Friday's Italian concept? Yeah. So there's one left over in North Richland Hills, and the owner's son had graduated college, and they wanted to get a restaurant up and running for him. Obviously, Italiani's was a Fridays Corp branded thing, so they couldn't use Italiani's.
I didn't know that.
So what they did is they kind of, I don't want to say they hijacked the menu, but they hijacked the menu and opened up a similar joint called Salt and Bocas, right? Okay. It was very Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra music all the time.
Oh, cool.
A piano up in the bar. And anybody that's been around DFW for any, since the 80s remembers the old Harrigan's on, I want to say it's Long and I-20, right? It was the Harrigan's was a huge concept. In fact, my old business partner was a general manager for Harrigan's before he and I got together back in like 2003 or whatever it was. But Harrigan's had been kind of a dead concept at that point. They bought the restaurant and turned it into Salt and Bocas. It was a beautiful concept. I mean, they really did a good job with like renovating and putting their own thing in. But John and I both had applied for the job, got the job, kind of met each other in training, which was at Italiani's in North Richland Hills. John and I are kind of the two, I don't want to say old dogs, but old dogs, right? I mean, by that point, we were close to 30 enough that we had been in the industry long enough that, okay, we're going to get along, right?
Yeah.
They said, okay, you got an hour to take your training test. And John and I, like, 20 minutes later, there you go, and we'd be done. 98, 99, there you go, all right. We ended up smoking cigarettes while everybody else was finishing their test. And it was, boom, that was it. That was it. You just, okay, this dude knows what's going on. We're going to work well together, so when we're working together, we can make some money. Everybody's going to be okay. We moved from servers up to the bar, through the whole thing, which is a whole other conversation about my restaurant life from 25 years ago. Yeah. And John had he had actually gone into security. Right, yeah. He'd gone into doing, I want to say it was a TXU building in Las Colinas or something, been doing that for a while. And he made good money, was doing well. And whatever happened there, I don't even know the story of what happened there, but whatever happened there, and he went back into restaurants, which was Danny's Celtic Pub. Right. Which was just before my wife and I had met. fast forward about a year later, we're in there every Sunday getting drunk at John's bar for football. You know what I mean? And then a couple years after that, you and I kind of link up through Danny's. So Danny's has a very special spot in my little universe.
Absolutely.
As a beginning of a lot of good things. A lot of incredible people that I knew even before Danny's was open, through various other life experiences that ended up at Danny's because it's a good place to be. It's got a lot of positive vibes in it too. And those shows were fun. Those shows were always fun, man. Even that little Bose setup you had, a little acoustic Bose speaker. That thing is, to this day, for solo musicians, I still say that those Bose towers are one of the best investments you can make. I know they're a little, but trust me, it's worth it. I sat on the fence because I got this giant monstrosity. You know what I mean?
It still sounds brand new. I played on it last night.
Right.
And it's still
Killer.
Top notch. Everything still is 100%.
Yeah.
And still. I've had it for 10 years.
It speaks to their quality. You know what I mean? I've had a whole bunch of Bose headphones and speakers. I know what they are, but lugging around, 35, 40 pounds worth of head unit, another 75, 80 pounds worth of speakers, plus poles, and then your gear and your cords and your cables and everything else that goes along with it. Dude, give me, 30 pounds worth of a stick in a box? All right. I wish I would have made that investment earlier.
Load in and setup takes 15 minutes.
Right. And
breakdown and load out probably less than that.
Yeah. And as somebody who plays full band pretty often, full drum set, 4 guitars between 2 guitar players, bass, speakers. I get cables and stands and lights and blah, 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 blah. It takes an hour and a half to set up. Takes an hour and a half to break down. You're only playing for 3 hours, but it's a full work day of stuff to get in and out and then play and get it back down. It's so much. And especially since COVID happened, the money playing live is not nearly what it used to be.
Nope.
And I say that for smaller acts, guys that aren't necessarily nationally known. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you got a little notoriety around town, you can make some decent money, but it's not what it used to be. And at 43, I'm not going to beat myself up like that anymore. You know what I mean? I'll plan 12, 15 shows a year, which is what we're actually going to plan on doing anyway next year. And if we do like some acoustic duo stuff here and there, like a little open mic or whatever, that's fine, whatever. But with full-time job, full-time dad, full-time husband, building it, I'm not going to do 200 shows a year.
I get it.
For $100 a show.
No. I know.
Just not.
Yeah.
And I know that may sound shitty, but it is what it is. And that's not to say anything against the guys that are out there doing it, who are grinding it out because that's what they do. God love them. Some of the most talented people on the planet I've met who are grinding it out like that, and I love them to death. And some of them are going to be on this podcast. It's going to be amazing.
Nice.
But thankfully, I hand to God, ethereal plane, whatever you want to call it. I've been blessed enough to where I can make that call for myself. You know what I mean? So having that resource, I just want to share.
And one of the cool things about that is that you make a choice like that and you're cool with it.
Yeah.
You're at peace with it. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat too. Like even last year, I told people, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be stepping away from live music to focus on other things. And it immediately went, oh, he was retiring. I was like, I didn't say that. Matter of fact, I can show you the post where I was like, I'm stepping away for a little bit to focus on something different.
Right.
And I don't know how it got out there that, he's quitting. He's not playing music anymore. I was like, that's not what I said. Come on. You read the same thing I read.
Social media, right?
Yeah, What is it? You whisper in one person's ear and you tell them the same thing, and you go, well, what is that
telephone game?
Yeah, the telephone game. Yeah. So, but it did. Like, once again, going back to the point when something goes stale, you got to step back or make a change. And the thing that I've come to is, music. Once you get bit by that bug, it never leaves you. Yeah. You're infected for life.
Yeah.
It just might change how you approach it.
How it manifests.
How do you do it? Yeah. I do know, and I think about this. Like playing a gig like I had last night when it was fun and people were engaged and they were interested in what you were doing and they were singing along with you. Now I'm sure alcohol had a lot to do with that. Sure. I'm not mad about it. Compared to some of the things, some of the gigs that you play where everybody's on their phone, they're not really concerned with it.
Yeah.
it got to a point where the majority of the gigs that I was playing, that was the case, and then it rubbed off on me,
right.
where I'm going through the motions.
Yeah.
I'm the one going, I just get a couple drinks and get a buzz and just get out of there.
Get me through the next 2 hours.
And you can't do that. You can't do that. And
it shows up.
It definitely shows up. And then they're going, oh, he's
yeah.
And it's just the vibe that you're giving each other turns into a thing where he's done.
Yeah.
And I thought that maybe that was the case. I'm not done.
Right.
It just looks a little different.
Right.
So.
Right.
Will I continue to gig? Yeah, sure. I have to.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It's therapy.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're not playing all the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you get the rep out. It's like going to the gym, and you have to have that. And yeah, so, and I found out in real estate and music can coexist, and I didn't think they could.
Yeah.
They totally can.
Yeah. It's a delicate balance, but yeah.
It is a delicate balance, and you got to, things change, how, like I said, going back to some of the things that change about it. But also at the same time, yeah, they can totally coexist. One of my things was, whenever you put your guitar case out there for people to put tips in, or, hey, you got a business card. Now I put my realtor business cards in my case. I've always wanted to do that since I got into this, and now I'm doing it. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, not only am I advertising myself as a musician and a singer and a songwriter, I'm also a realtor.
Right.
So yeah, those things can coexist.
Yeah. And it all boils down to the networking aspect of, I don't want to say selling yourself, but selling yourself, right? So anything that you do that's going to generate revenue for you requires that you sell somebody on the idea that they should give you money for what you're doing, right? It's the ugly truth that nobody wants to talk about when it comes to like being an artist. Well, I don't know. It's not about the money. Okay, sure. It's not solely for the money, but at some point.
Okay, no. Let's talk about that.
Yes, please.
You have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think about this, and you and I we've talked about this ad nauseum for the past years. Defining your expectations and being honest with those expectations, and it changes every year. The ideal, and of course, if you had asked me this in 2015 when we first met, I want to conquer the world and I want to win all the Grammys and I want to do this.
Yeah.
No, the goal, the ideal goal, would be able to have a good living. I don't have to have a great living. A great living would be great.
Sure.
But if you were to tell me that a year from now, 2 years from now, where music that I've written, music that I've played and continue to play will sustain me and I can live comfortably, that's a win.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Where you get to do whatever the hell you want. You get to go wherever the hell you want and go play songs that you've written or go play other songs and go have a good time. And then you don't have to – and then going to a situation where it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the ultimate.
And I honestly wish somebody had told me when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, look, don't get hung up on being on stage. Don't get hung up on making all of your bones as a musician by being on stage as a frontman or even as a backup, whatever. Don't make that your focus. The music industry offers you so many different avenues to make music, whether it's merch or album sales or playing live or running a podcast or putting together some kind of production thing that you can do, or you can bring other artists in and help them out and generate revenue. There's so many possibilities for generating revenue as an artist or as a musician. There's no reason for people to put themselves in the box. Well, it's not about the money. I'm just going to do it for the creativity, because I did that. Honestly, I did that up until, probably 7-8 years ago. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I was all about, I want to be on stage. I want my people to hear my noise. I want to be the front man. I want to be, as a singer, I want my voice to be the key focus, blah, 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 blah. And now, obviously, as you age, you mature, things change, you see things differently. Now, if somebody told me, look, build you something that can generate revenue from a whole bunch of different things, right? Don't just write music that sounds good to your ear because it sounds good to your ear. You know what I mean? Marketability is half the battle in making a living as a musician. you know, and a lot of guys even cornhole themselves into, oh, I don't want to be the wedding singer guy. I don't want to be the guy that does corporate events. I don't want to look, if they're paying you $1,000 to go show up at a corporate event for 4 hours and play a couple of tunes, take the $1,000 and shut up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't cornhole yourself and cut yourself off from opportunities, because with that $1,000, that's a new laptop. That's several new cameras.
That's studio time.
You know what I mean? That's studio time.
To go sing the things that you want to sing and be in the first place.
And have somebody actually professionally, mix them down and give you a solid demo that you can bring to somewhere else that can generate more revenue for you for whatever else you're doing. You know what I mean? The mindset, and I guess a lot of it comes from, especially as a classical musician, you're brought up in classical music, the origins of what makes noise good noise, right? Major, minor, key structures, time signatures, stuff like that. This pattern makes this kind of feel. These chords make this kind of feel. So you have, and I fought with it for a long time. You have this very conceited idea of what good music is, and it's solely based on what you have in your head, not based on anything that's got any kind of market research behind it saying that this is good noise. Because you and I have both seen, apparently Britney Spears is good noise because she makes $1 billion gazillion a nanosecond, even though she hasn't toured in how long? You know what I'm saying?
Well, didn't she just have she had the show in Vegas, didn't she? Or she's going to have a show in Vegas.
The Freedom from Daddy tour? My bad. No shit.
I mean, hey, more power to her, man.
For sure. The fact she got out of a bad situation is a good thing. So
and that's a whole other podcast that we can have. But there's, I'll always side with the artist in a situation like that.
Yeah.
I haven't. When I go through Netflix, I see that Britney versus Spears, and I want to watch it, but then again, I don't want to watch it.
You don't want to feed the monster at the same time. You're really interested by what the monster has to say.
There's something not right there that I'm not ready for.
Yeah, there's a dark side.
And it can happen to anybody.
Yeah, 100%.
And that from an artist perspective, I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah,
that's going to take a few days.
And that's fair. You know what I mean? That's totally fair. There's a dark side of the music industry that is very troublesome. Especially when you get into pop culture. There goes my dryer. Everybody hear that?
Nice.
There you go. That's my washing machine. Real life podcasting, people. Real life podcasting. There's a excuse me. We were talking pop music, right?
Pop music.
Britney Spears.
Britney Spears.
And
her music looks amazing.
Yeah, right? It's extremely well produced. It's extremely well orchestrated and composed on almost a scientific level, and I this was one of the things that really blew my mind. And I think you and I had this discussion a couple years back about all the top 40 hits are written by two people on the planet.
Yeah.
And both of them live in Europe. Right?
Sweden, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, right. So all the pop music that you hear that's top 40 that gets all the kinds of airplay, it's written or produced or composed or whatever by one of two guys on the planet, and they know the formula on a scientific level. We have got it mastered. If you do this with this face and this noise, you will make $1 billion, and they do. They do.
Man, my producer, Jonathan Camacho, he calls it the big machine.
Yeah.
And he goes, it still works.
Yeah.
And he told me that in 2016, 2017, when I first joined up with him. He's like, the big machine, that's why it is what it is.
Right.
And his favorite quote, and he says, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And you and I had this conversation about the best ideas are always stolen, right?
Oh, yeah. And I didn't agree with you for the longest time. I fought you on it on a lot. But then whenever you go back and you listen to songs and you go and you study, like for, playing cover shows, and you go, wait, why is the A chord always with the D and the E? Why is the G always with the C and the D? Right. Circle of fifths, that's a reason. Once again, learning on your own, teaching yourself, you have to learn these things piece by piece. But there's a reason why songs sometimes sound the same, and it's because of how music is put together.
1-4-5, minor 2, minor 6.
Yep.
Right? It is the formula. and I'm not one to begrudge it. You know what I mean?
No, and also going back to, like, case in point, I was telling you about that CD that I put together that's going to be cringeworthy. It's because chords were not where they were supposed to be. But I was like, but it sounds cool.
That's where I want it to be right now.
And then you have like somebody who, hey, I'll come play lead for you, and they get mad and they go, why is a key change here? Why is it? And I'm like, dude, it just sounds good. Play it. What's the matter? It's like, I can't.
Yeah.
And it gets in that whole thing, and then
and that's and that's again the noise for your own sake, right?
Right, and you have to. Yeah. It's a learning lesson that you have to learn.
The first time somebody's told me that my first like complex piece of like guitar, acoustic, whatever, was good, but not great. Mm-hmm. And I had spent, it's like 24 chord progressions and all kinds. There's a little minor key change, you know what I mean? It's this long, like 8-minute song with the lyrics that I've been pounding out of my head for whatever. My masterpiece, my pièce de résistance, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I like it, but it's not great.
Yeah.
I was like,
and how crushed.
Yeah. You have any idea how much time I spent on this? This is my whole life. You guys are idiots. But Country Breed, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Which is 12-bar blues.
Uh-huh.
It's literally Eric Clapton's Before You Accuse Me / Stevie Ray Vaughan's Pride and Joy. 145, right? People went, oh, dude, that's badass, man. And it, boom, took off.
Yep.
Like,
are you serious?
And it took a lot for me to realize, okay, lean into it.
Yeah.
Lean into it. You can still be expressive. You can still be creative with like 5 or 6 chords, 7 chords. You don't have to have these masterpieces of, minor, augmented, diminished, blah, 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 14 chords. It's just play noise.
Yeah.
Play noise that works well together, And I look at guys like Kofi Anderson, right?
Uh-huh.
Who is, I had no idea who he was before TikTok. And I don't even have TikTok. My wife has TikTok. Yeah. And every once in a while, we'll sit on the back patio, smoke cigarettes, and we'll watch her TikTok videos.
Yeah.
And his song, Mr. Red, White, and Blue, was the backdrop of a whole bunch of TikTok videos, right? All patriotic, support the troops, American flags, 4th of July, blah, blah, blah. And I loved it. It's a fantastic song. 145.
Yep.
It's like 4 chords, right? It's just arranged in a way and performed in a way that makes people like, oh, it evokes an emotion. Right, people. I don't want to say it's predictable, but it's predictable. People know where it's going to go.
Relatable.
You're relatable, right? And that's the stuff that people want. That's the people that people want to consume in mass, right? There's a very small niche of people who want to listen to, Brahms, right, or Mozart. And those are the nerds, the super hyper music nerds like me, that have spent their entire lives, thumbing through the annals of time and classical music. I want to hear that stuff. Sure, I want to hear Host of the Planets. But of all the people that I know in my life, I am the only dude that even fucking knows what a Host of the Planets is, And only because my band director in 9th grade gave me a copy of it because I was first chair clarinet. Oh, here's your prize. And I love it. It's great music.
Still awesome, though.
Yeah, it's great music.
Yeah.
It's on cassette, like old school cassette. Mira, the whole 12 planet. The whole picture 12 planet. It's good stuff. But again, there's not a market for that necessarily that would provide the kind of outflow the kind of exposure or content that I want. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because it's one of those things when growing up as a musician, like I had in my head from a very young time, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? Yeah, I can fix cars and I'm good at arguing with people with constitutional law, sure, because I'm a nerd and I do that. But when it comes to like being good at something that I actually enjoy doing, music was the thing for me. That was all that I ever wanted to do. And I knew that my purpose on this planet was sharing that with people. Mm-hmm. And I understand that my sharing that with people is going to be hindered by writing compositionally complex pieces that nobody can relate to because they haven't nerded out for 25, 30 years on, what classical music is. So kind of, again, getting into the comfort zone of writing 4, 5, 6, 7 chord progression songs was an eye-opener for me. And all of a sudden, now Southern Oakman has like 3 or 4 albums worth of stuff that's all, I don't want to say similar, but built of the same ingredients, you know what I mean? Just put together in a different way. And as a result, we, like I said, 3 albums worth of stuff. Usually 3rd album was where everybody's like, oh, gotcha, boom, that's where it pops, right? So third album's done this year.
Yeah.
At the end of this year, we should be boom. You know what I mean? That's the goal, which is again why we're doing a whole lot of this stuff. So now that we've kind of gotten from Longview or from Bossier to Longview to DFW, 2015. What was because you and I got together? It was a couple years after we had met that we actually got together.
Well,
to work.
Yeah, I was going to mention this part after getting the Danny's gig, and then I think I had another place that I played in Grapevine, and then I got reached out to mid-March 2015 by a company out of Hollywood. Mm-hmm. Said, "Hey man, we've found your music on Reverb Nation." Right. Once again, more crappy solo acoustic recordings. Right. How would you feel about playing a set at House of Blues in Dallas? And I looked at it and I went, "You sure you got the right guy?" Right. You know those recordings. Those recordings. There's no full band in that. Right. And they go, no, you're not going to play the big room. Right. And that we have showcases in the foundation room. And I was like, well, okay, but solo acoustic's all right. And they go, yeah, man, it's like, would you want to come play? And I went, oh, yes, absolutely. And I remember there was a band in Longview that actually went out to Hollywood called the Vehicle Reason. Okay. They were like rock, indie, alt. They were good. They were really, really good. And I used to drink with them and party with them in Longview all the time. And I told them they were one of the people that were like, oh, you're a musician, huh? So what do you do with 145? Did you write this and the blah blah blah? I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Right.
Yes, Chicken Gusto on 3.
But they had talked about going out to Hollywood to go play in showcases, and they played. They ended up partying with Nickelback one night. Oh wow! And said they were the coolest guys ever. Right. And they were in a showcase, and they got all the way out there, and they had toured, and they paid all this money. Got all the way out there in a showcase, and they decided they were like, this is not worth it.
Not for us.
So I remember hearing showcase. I went, bing! Right. So I went and I sold a bunch of tickets to, basically sold them all at Danny's. Right. With all the crew there. And went and played the show. Obviously, it wasn't my best show, but it wasn't bad. Right. It took a lot of gumption for me to get up there. Because it was House of Blues. Right. It was me playing my own songs as opposed to playing cover songs. Covers, yeah. Made it through. There weren't any major hiccups. It actually, for where I was at that point, it was okay. It was fine. Yeah. And then a week or two later, I called the girl that booked the show. She was in Hollywood. And I have a friend that was living in L.A. at the time. He's still out there. And I was like, hey, I want to take a week. I want to come out there. Come check it out. Well, anyway, I called Kelly, and I said, hey, I'm going to be out there. I would love to come by the office. Maybe let's go have lunch. I want to see how you do things. Right. And she goes, you're going to be in L.A.? And I said, yeah. And she goes, do you want to play in L.A.? And I went, get out of here. And I said, yes. And they were like, how many tickets could you sell? And I was like, I could sell 2. And she goes, well, all right, this is going to be a free show. And, it was the House of Blues on Sunset Boulevard. Wow. Right across the street from the Comedy Store.
That's a bucket list thing, too, man.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Really? Just went from learning how to play guitar, picking it up in 2007 to 2015. Right. Playing a showcase of songs I've written on the Sunset Strip. Yeah. Still, to this day, one of the biggest. Moment. Oh, huge moment. Yeah. And then, just that whole day, we were at Venice Beach in Santa Monica that day. It was that Saturday, and drove from Venice, Santa Monica, through Century City, through Studio City, drove by Nakatomi Plaza. Right. I saw that, and then you get on Sunset, and then you see Whiskey A Go Go. You see the Viper Room. You see the Roxy. All these world famous places, and immediately the anxiety was at an all time high. For sure. And my buddy dropped me off, and he's like, we want VIP. I'm like, dude, it's a free show. You're going to walk right in. He goes, VIP. And he took me my bag, and he goes, you better do this, or our friendship is over. He shut the door, and he drove off. And I was like, fuck this dude, man. How are you going to do this to me? Right. And then just immediately I'm sitting there.
Welcome to L.A., right?
With his guitar that he let me borrow, by the way, because I wasn't going to bring my guitar on an airplane. But I had my boots in my right hand and this guitar case in my left hand, and I'm looking at the Comedy Store. Oh, wow. Right across the street. Chris D'Elia was the headliner in the main room that night. And I didn't have, and then at that point, I mean, there's no telling. Chappelle could have been there.
Right.
Rogan probably was there.
Yeah.
Eliza Schlesinger was probably doing something over there too. Ari Schaefer, all those guys. And it just immediately, the anxiety completely turned a 180 to the most gratitude, gracious feeling that I've ever had in my entire life.
Talking about lucky, right?
Well, just
blessed
luck,
or whatever.
Blessed.
Yeah.
Somebody thought of me enough. They could have been like, I'm not going to invite him, but yeah, let's go. He can come by and hang out. But they invited me to play.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And it was just the whole thing. It was a buildup of, you'll never play. Your music sucks. This. And those same people that are in Longview, and I'm posting on Facebook, and like they're like, how did he get that?
Right.
And so it was a very beat your chest, gratifying moment. So then I was like, I don't even care how it sounds or not, but I'm going to do the best I can do.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. It was a quick set, and it was different because, number one, not many players that sound like me
in LA
play in Los Angeles.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was different, and they were appreciative, and they clapped after every song, and it was just a great night. And then coming back, and that's where getting fast forward, you're like, all right, I need to work with you.
Right.
Your passion is there, your lyrics are there, your vocals are there, but I need to work with you.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah. the old Yoda days.
Yeah. Hashtag Dagobah, baby.
Yeah. That and that was, I guess part of my mindset forever has been, help people spread the word, help people make noise. You know what I mean? I try not to be, and it's taken some work, but I try not to be the guy that's like, oh, I am good, so F everybody else. You know what I mean? And it's taken some. I've taken my lumps in it. You know what I mean? I've taken, including from you, and I'm 100% appreciative for it when it happened. You know what I mean? And I tell the story. To everybody. You and I started that project, F-Back, like 2016, 17, where I actually got to kind of pick your brain as far as how you write music and see where your music logic kind of naturally progressed to, and of course I was always impressed by it.
You say music logic.
even if it's natural logic.
It was basically, I wonder what happens when you do this. That's kind of where that was.
Trial and error is some of the best stuff. Makes some of the best stuff. And I was 100% excited to be on board with what you were doing, and help in any way that I could. And I'm glad you got to meet Miss Townsend through that. It's a funny story.
Yeah.
So, as a choir kid in high school, my choir director at that point, 2016, was running a adults choir through Tarrant County Junior College, or Tarrant County College, and invited me, and I'd done it for a year. And being that I knew how valuable that experience was for me as a musician, especially a singer, I went, Eric, hey, dude, come on, you got to do this. So I got to kind of expose you to a little bit of that, which I hope is a good thing. And then as we kind of progressed, we made some really, really cool noise, some really, really cool noise. And I will take 100% responsibility for kind of stepping on the dick of it, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because I remember, because you and I, speaking of the Foundation Room, you and I booked that show and sold tickets after ticket after ticket. We sold probably 30, 40 tickets in like 4 or 5 days, something like that.
Yeah,
it's pretty quick.
And it was a last second deal too. And I remember texting you like, "Hey, you want to go play House, please?" You're like, "Yeah, let's go." And it was a great night. Yeah,
and it was a great show. We did a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? Which is really cool.
That's a fun room to play whenever the vibe is good. Yeah, that's a good room to play.
With a good crowd, it's a lot of fun. And I remember the conversation vividly, and I remember exactly what I said. That kind of was the tipping point, so to speak, when we were talking about. I think it was Lonely for the Lone Star, maybe 49. We were talking. Was it John Marsh? He was big John Marsh and his lady.
Probably so, yeah.
And I 100% misspoke and saying.
Wait, what'd you say?
Well, from what I remember the conversation, I had inadvertently taken more credit than was deserved for the impact that I had on whatever song that they were talking about.
Oh, okay.
And I as soon as I said it, I was like, oh, that's going to be a problem. I knew in the back of my head, it's like if Eric's smart, and I know he is, if Eric's smart, that's going to be a problem sooner. And it was, and it's fine. You know, I no hard feelings whatsoever, because honestly, in the same situation, I probably would have done the same thing. Because as musicians, we have to be protective. We have to be a little guarded, especially when it comes to intellectual property, especially nowadays with the ease with which it can be distributed by somebody else with all kinds of other BS that makes it just different enough to get you screwed out of your stuff. You know what I mean? And that is really one of the bigger regrets I have as a musician is not catching myself sooner. You know what I mean? But as such, you have once we went our separate ways, so to speak. You've obviously had a great run. Even though I hate to say them, so I'll kind of intimate who they are. The T-A doing stuff for them, which was which was great. I don't have any hard feelings against them as far as an organization goes. But you've done great things with them. Obviously, you've released a whole bunch of your own music, Rain, which it was about a year after F-Back ended, you went ahead and released Rain.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's going to be the one. That's going to be, that one and Lonely for the Lone Star are going to be the ones that go blooshy. And I'm glad that they were the two of the first ones that you released, because the longer they're out there, the more time people have to find them, the more longevity they're going to have in the long run. And I think that they are going to be 100% killers. So even the way everything worked out, I am still honored to have been any kind of part in inspiring or being, a creative part of whatever it was, even if it was non-tangible or whatever. I am honored to be even associated with what it is that you did with your music after that, because it is unbelievable what you accomplished, and I am both humbled and proud of. And again, not to sound arrogant, but of the Padawan, so to speak. I am 100% proud of what it is that you've accomplished. Taking what you could from me, even in the short time, taking what you could from me and then mastering that and putting it into play has been an absolute joy to watch. And I am 100% in support of what it is you got going on, and I will go to the fucking mattresses for you, for sure.
And likewise, man, I appreciate that. And you've played a very integral role. No, it was funny. No, I was a very, I was a blank canvas. It was just, let's see what happens when you do this. Yeah. And one of the cool things of, originally I wanted to be an English major and just write. That's all I've ever wanted to be in my life, was a writer.
Really?
Yeah, that's it. And then maybe do some cool things on the side, but ultimately write books.
Right.
And just because I'm long-winded and I love putting stuff on paper. But really, honestly, what indirectly helped this monster was having a journalism major.
Sure.
Because you learn how to write compact.
Yeah. Get it all in.
Get the most important things, spin it a certain way, get rid of the garbage.
Yep.
And songwriting, you have to do it that way. Garth Brooks majored in journalism.
Did he really?
He sure did.
I didn't know that.
He got his journalism degree from Oklahoma State.
No kidding.
And obviously one of my first songwriting influences obviously is Garth Brooks, and
good one to have too.
Man, like that's he was big, and like listening to his music for a long time was huge.
Yeah.
And that was one of my how to if I want to write songs, how do I want to do it? Probably similar to how he does things. And when I later found out that he was a journalism major, I'm like, oh well, then there you go. Makes sense. So. But then also, going, hey, look, I like what you're doing. I love your passion. You've got something there, but I need to help you with this. Yeah. Very, very huge. Yeah. And I thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Another major musical influence for me is my producer, Jonathan Camacho. Yeah. And I've told you about Jonathan. He's done some really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
He has composed music for an ESPN 30 for 30. He composed music for United Airlines during the 2016 Summer Olympics.
Oh, wow.
He's worked with some very, very big names.
He's done some good stuff.
He's done some really, really good stuff in the studio that they have in Dallas, which also, which is cool, is right around the corner from where I live.
Right.
The things that they're doing it's called the Creatives Factory, by the way.
Gotcha.
Not only is it a recording studio for music, but they've got a space where you can have live shows. They film music videos in there. It's
nice.
like it is a studio,
right?
Where they have
Full
the backdrops. You can film podcasts in there. They've done that.
Right.
You can record podcasts. You can record music, drums, anything and everything. Backdrop, whatever you want to create.
Right.
Go give it a look.
Okay.
They have So Far shows there. I think they had a So Far show there last night, and then they had a symposium question Q&A thing today that I wanted to go to, but I was like, nope. I promised Mikey I'd be here for this, so here I am. But it's a really, really cool thing they have going on, and actually there's a song that I'll be putting out next year, hopefully with a couple more, that will detail the future of Erick Fayard music.
Awesome.
That it's gonna be a little bit different.
Right on, dude. I'm excited.
And actually, I don't know if you had cut off plan, but I do want to talk about where Rain originated, because you're gonna be you've recorded it. You're gonna be recording Lonely for the Lone Star. I'd love to talk about where those songs originated. I don't know if you want to break or do whatever else. I'm highly caffeinated. That second cup of coffee was probably not a good idea. It tasted amazing.
Got the audible buzz working.
Oh God, I'm doing this, and the coffee has definitely kicked in. But I'm loving where the conversation's going. I've got so much to share.
Let's pee break real quick.
Yeah.
And we'll get back after it here.
Cool.
I'm gonna put some Jeopardy music on.
Do it. I'm going to check out my losing fantasy football team score right now, which I have to be. Yep, I'm losing.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. This has turned out great, dude. We're already an hour and a half in.
Get out of here.
Yeah, hour and a half in. Doesn't even feel like it's been 15 minutes.
You got plenty to edit on.
You know. Honestly, I run both cameras at the same time, record the whole window. So
yeah.
I don't even have to edit. Just got to cut out the breaks.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, but right back into it. So, you wanted to tell the story about Rain and Lonely for the Lone Star.
Yeah. So, Rain originally was supposed to be a happy song. That was inspired the trip to California to L.A.
Yeah.
I'm with my friends. We're in Chinatown, and the heavens just opened. It just started pouring, and it I think that was the first day in, I want to say, like a year and a half where Los Angeles saw any rainfall.
Right.
And it poured for a good 5 or 10 minutes, and we made the joke that we brought the rain to L.A.
Right.
So it was like, and we talked about that, and I was like, that sounds like a happy song. Came back, and I guess something happened. I think it was one of my old roommates where I got asked to leave because, kind of, had some people over and we partied a little later than we should have. Yeah, I was high on life because coming back and playing the Sunset Strip and rules don't apply to me. So
for now, anyway.
And so I ended up and I remember I was watching Tombstone. Hell's coming with me, and I was like, now, okay, and immediately Hell is the Storm and I in the Rain, and it just came out, and I was like, oh, that's the song.
There it is.
So that immediately went from a happy song to what it turned out to be, and I'm proud of how that turned out.
Yeah.
And I wanted to teeter on the rock and country fence, and Camacho, to his credit, saw immediately what I wanted, and he knocked it out of the park with the vision that I'd given him and the toys that he wanted to use and the pieces that.
Yeah, the studio production is really great.
Man, it was so good. It was better than I could have imagined. So we went in first and recorded Rain, and then we recorded Only One. And originally, it was going to be I was going to do 4 tracks. And I was like, you know what? How about this? Let's do an A side and a B side first. And he said, all right, cool. And I shared a song that I have called "A Girl, a Boy, and a Smile."
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I don't know about that one. And I shared Rain. He goes, all right, that's one.
Yeah.
And then I shared Only One. He goes, that's one too. And before, I was right about to give him Lonely for the Lone Star.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and that's when I made the decision. How about instead of 4 tracks, let's do just an A and a B. He goes, good call. So that was 2017. We recorded those. 2018 rolled around. People weren't exactly feeling those two per se.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're like, yeah, they're good, but what else do you have?
Right.
So then I would go, and I would go play. I started getting into internet radio, live performances, and then I would play Lonely for the Lone Star.
Yeah.
And then I would play 49. They go, whoa, what's that?
What's that one?
That's what we want. So we kept going to it, and I was like, crap, I got to get this recorded then. Yeah. So we went back in 2019, and I was like, I told him, I was like, Jonathan, I don't have all the money yet. It's going to be like, I'm going to pay you when I get the money. He goes, cool, whatever. Let's get it down. Let's get it down. And we changed some things and to make it, once again, rewrite it for production and musical purposes, and turned out fine. And then people were like, no, this is going to be the one.
Yeah.
This is going to get you to the next level. I just joined in with TC May and Linda and Richard, God bless them. And I'm still a part to this day, by the way. I don't want to put that the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was like, I'm going to utilize that. I'm going to have that in my arsenal. This song, here it comes. Roll the dice.
Yeah.
Boom. Nothing. And I mean, after all of that, and it still hurts to this day that, you know, after hearing so many people, had 1,000 streams on Spotify in its first week.
Right.
And I remember going, okay, this is something. And then it just died.
Yeah.
And just being left with the whole, what happened?
Right.
This was supposed to work. And so for months and months and months, I'm emailing programming directors. I'm emailing other promoters and not getting anything back.
Really?
Nothing.
Wow.
And then finally, it came to my attention 3 months after the song had been officially released that it came out that I was not country enough.
Gotcha.
I was like, what does that mean? And like, let's get back and that's a whole other podcast that we can have. Define country music.
Right. And who's the gatekeeper?
Who determines what is what?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Once again, it just befuddled me because.
Well, and you listen to Nashville now versus like country 1980.
Yeah.
What's country?
Mm-hmm.
What's country? You know, who's making that call? You know, for sure. And part of what I love about modern music, obviously, is that a lot of those gatekeepers are no longer a thing. Because distribution is free. Mm-hmm. Literally. Distribution is free. You know, so it only makes sense that if you take advantage of it, if you know it and you take advantage of it, it's not having to rely on gatekeepers to be the affirmative, the affirmation that you want or seek in whatever you're doing makes a huge difference. But even still, there is a little bit of that gatekeeper left, especially when you're trying to break in through some, you know, beyond your what you call your super fan base, right? Mm-hmm. Which is the original, you know, couple 20, 30, 50, 100 people that you get listening to your stuff. Outside of that, getting your noise out to the people beyond that still does involve a little bit of a gatekeeper, so to speak. You know what I mean? And when I talk to I'm going to name drop. When I talk to Jim Nashville, because Jim and I kind of after what was it, Snowmageddon, right? We did the local artist showdown 95.9 The Ranch, right?
Yeah.
We went like 6 straight days. It was huge. I mean, granted, we had a captive audience that was all living here. So, hey, you guys aren't doing shit because we know what you're doing.
Yeah,
you know?
we know exactly what you're doing.
Send text messages in, and it worked out really well for us.
Yeah, and deservedly so.
You know, and that was a great song. You know, Running Clear Whiskey is a really, really fun, again, kind of 12 bars blues built in country beats. But it took off pretty well, and Jim and I kind of linked up shortly thereafter, and kind of talking to him about the process and what it takes to get put in front of the people who can help expand distribution. It is something else, and it is not cheap.
Yeah,
it is not effing cheap, and I get it because there's a lot of work that's gone into getting those pieces in place. Right. Mm-hmm. So if you're the person who knows, hey, I can send it to this person, yeah, your time is worth all kinds of money, especially the guys that don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I get it, but at the same time, dadgum fool. I mean, if I had a conversation at 25 that I had with Jim at the age of almost 40. This is like three years ago or whatever. If I'd had that conversation with Jim 25 years ago, I'd have quit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to come up with that. I'm a bartender and waiter trying to, self-produce my own stuff by myself in a 700 square foot apartment I pay next to nothing for on the east side of Austin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm done. You know what I mean? So I'm thankful that I didn't figure that out until later, because obviously I would have hated myself if I had quit,
Yeah, and what's funny was, I mean, like, and you go, and I guess that's the other thing, after you're asking all these questions, why, then, and then something like COVID happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that was the fall of 2019 when that song came out, and I was like, I don't understand it. And then 2020, and then all of a sudden, everything shut down, and like basically we're all thinking, oh, we're all gonna die.
Yeah. They shut off planet Earth.
Yeah.
And
it's over.
Yeah.
It's over. So you're left with, after you crying yourself to sleep, well, why did this happen? Well, you're left with, all right, what did you do?
Right.
More importantly,
what do we do now?
What did you not do?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for
Let's
sure.
go back and take a look.
How much stuff did you miss?
Did you really do everything the right way?
Yeah.
Did you really put as much work into it than you should have? Did you maybe not do that? And you're like, okay, all right, yeah, I could have done that better. I could have done that better. I could have done this better. I could have listened a little bit better on this thing. I could have, instead of going to the bar 5 nights a week, I could have saved that money and maybe put it towards promotion.
Yeah.
Who could get you in touch with those people? Who could get, it that is part of it.
Yeah.
And just like like you just said, that is an important part of it. It's not not the best thing,
right.
but it is what it is.
It's the unsexy side, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's, and then also, funny story about my recording of Only for the Lone Star.
Yeah.
The vocal on that was the scratch vocal.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
I was like, nah, we're good. Wait, it'll be fine. I didn't do vocals on it.
Wow.
And I've had people go, you sing better than that.
Yeah.
That, like, dude, you sing a whole, well, what happened there?
Mm-hmm.
And I went, oh, yeah, I didn't think I needed it. And they're like, you should have done that again.
Right.
And so stuff like that, right? John, our buddy, goes, why did you rewrite the song?
Right.
He was livid at me.
He was so pissed.
He still is.
Yeah. That's always by the way it was. God.
Yeah.
And
one night at Danny's, in fact, we're in the parking lot till 4:00 in the morning. He was chewing me out because of that.
I believe it.
Remember that?
One of his Miller Night 6-pack or 12-pack nights.
Oy.
Yeah.
So it's once again, when you ask why didn't something happen, there are reasons. But on the flip side, it opens up avenues that maybe it wasn't supposed to.
Right.
So
a hard reset, even though it's forced, is sometimes a good thing.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with getting in a good hard reset. And I did it from social media for like a year and a half after my daughter came. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't want anything. I'm done. The noise and all the yada yada. I just need to kind of take a little break. And it was honestly the best thing I could have done for myself psychologically at that point, because it was right during COVID and everything was falling apart. And it's one of those things where you kind of realize, okay, what now? No, what do I do now? You know what I mean? Do I keep grinding at the stuff that I'm doing now to try and hope maybe hopefully at some point it turns, or do I maybe turn a little bit different direction, try something a little bit different, or try something new? So the fact that you're kind of moving to maybe a new sound or a new style or a new kind of take on what it is that Erick Fayard music, I am super fucking stoked. I am super stoked to see what comes out of the new era of Erick Fayard music, for sure.
When is this podcast going to be available?
Between Wednesday and Friday of this week sometime.
Okay.
I try to put them up by Friday at the latest.
Well, I haven't officially released this.
All right. Hot take, people.
But I can give you a taste.
Nice. Yeah, a little hot take, folks.
And I haven't shared. My producer's probably gonna be mad at me if I'm gonna share this, but
Maybe spreading the word.
But maybe a little taste of this. Wait, hang on. How do I? It's a whole lot easier. You're an Android guy.
Yeah.
Let me see. Wait. Hang on. I think this can work. Hang on just a second. If you need to talk to, if you need to like pay some bills with advertising.
I know that's the next goal.
This space brought to you by Erick Fayard, Realtor with Rogers Healy and Associates out of Dallas, Texas. Dallas Fort Worth was built on dynasties. Let's build yours.
Nice. I like it.
Actually, I do like that.
That is pretty dope. TV shows and all.
I know it.
An entire section of the state that was built on a TV idea.
Old habits die hard. Messages. I'm going to send this via text. I don't know if it'll let me.
All right.
And I don't even know if you can put this on here where we can listen at the same time. You probably can, but no, because I just sent it via text.
Well, I could probably send it by email and open it up on the.
There you go.
At least, well, no, because I don't have anything. I don't have an out for that audio.
Oh, okay.
I can just play it into the microphone.
Did you get it?
Let's see here. No sound.
No, I want you to hear it in all of its glory.
No.
You know what I feel like? Did you watch the movie Bohemian Rhapsody?
I did.
Do you remember like when he goes into the radio show and he has the record, and it's right after they went in with the executive. And he's like, "We're not playing this.
Yeah.
It's 8 minutes long. It's too long." And he's like, "We're gonna play it on this.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to." That's kind of what this feels like right now.
Right.
I know that movie catches a lot of flack because some of the factual things in it weren't accurate how they went down, but I love that movie.
Yeah.
And I've always been a fan of Queen anyway. They were badasses.
Well, they
still are.
They were truly of their own accord. They were not. They refused to be fit into a box, so to speak. You know what I mean? Which is what I really appreciate them. I mean, some of their music is not necessarily my cup of tea, but some of their music is. And
how to come up with something like Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
It just astounds me.
Orchestration, and those are guys whose brains were trained around orchestration.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Putting all those puzzle pieces together in a way that makes sense, and the fact that it was still marketable. And I shouldn't say marketable because it wasn't necessarily marketable according to the gatekeepers, but the fact that it had so much market success against all the odds. You know what I mean? They're truly an inspiration.
2 different decades.
Yeah, for real, right? Yeah.
First time I ever heard the song, Wayne's World.
70s and 90s, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the 90s, and it's funny you say that because the 90s were good for a lot of rebirthing of great music.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Because that's really when I found, that's obviously when I found Aerosmith.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I had no idea who that was.
Arguably, they did their best stuff in the 90s. No, factually they did.
Biggins, yeah.
You know what their first ever #1 song was? Aerosmith. Their first ever #1.
That was that Stay With Me, Sing for the Years, back in like the 70s, right? Or was it before that?
Oh, no.
No kidding.
Their first ever #1. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing from the Armageddon soundtrack.
No kidding.
Look it up. Yeah.
Are you serious?
That was their first ever #1.
No way.
Yep.
Wow, that is astonishing.
Thank you, VH1 pop-up video.
Yeah, right. That is astonishing. Their first ever #1 hit.
Yep.
The amazing musicians that they are. Wow.
Their second #1 was Jaded.
Yeah. And I remember them with like Run DMC back in the 80s.
That's how
I
I found Aerosmith.
Yeah.
I'm like, who are these guys singing this rap song?
And they were phenomenal.
And it was there.
Yeah. And they were phenomenal, dude.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then you had Billy Joel obviously, who's been around forever. And then Michael Jackson was obviously still very big from at that point. He was really kind of coming into his own as a solo pop star and being the gigantic icon that he was. But all that stuff was music geared from and kind of derived or inspired by the 60s, 70s movement of music that was earth-shattering as far as like cultural impact, between the Vietnam War or I guess the end of the Korean War into the Vietnam War, the assassination of Kennedy, the trip to the moon, the atrocity that was the actual Vietnam War by the time it was all said and done, moving into the 80s when we had Reagan's economic boom and the end of Carter's. I mean, all that stuff was going on in this huge, remarkably pivotal part in time. And the music that came out of American society, it wasn't even the most popular music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
60s, 70s, 80s, the most popular stuff on the planet was still country. By far, but not even close.
Isn't that crazy?
Country and Broadway.
Yeah.
And not even an inkling of being close as far as, what we consider pop music today, right? But they still had such a lasting impact with, Foghat and Creedence Clearwater Revival, obviously the Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, Lynyrd Skynyrd, all these great iconic rock bands that really set the tone for a movement in music that was culturally significant beyond just, okay, look at Elvis swinging his hips.
Yeah.
And being on stage. I love Elvis. And some of the stuff he did that nobody's never heard of is just genius level stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things that people would say, that's Elvis? Like, yeah, fool. Yeah, he was like a legit, genius, right? That's why he was smart enough to steal black music. That's why everybody was smart enough to steal black music.
I mean.
You know what I mean? It's not, and if anybody says, oh, it's bullshit. No, it's not.
No, it's not. No, it isn't.
No, it's not. The reason Ray Charles was famous until the day he died because he kept his own masters.
Yep.
Right? Those are mine. You don't get them. That's the reason he was as successful as he was.
That's why Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters are the same way.
Yeah. Again, changing.
You can borrow them for a little bit, but you gotta give them back.
Changing the culture of music, of the music business. Ray came along and said, "No, fool, this is my shit," and he kept it. And then in the ensuing melee that was everything that happened during the 60s, 70s into the 80s and the economic boom and 80s music, some people hate it. I have a soft spot in my heart for 80s music just because.
Oh, dude.
I grew up with it. I was a kid, you know what I mean? Duran, you know what I mean?
What I just sent you.
Yeah. Right on.
Spoiler alert.
Okay.
And I think I've told you about this. And it's on the same wavelength. Is that, once you go back to, all right, why didn't this work? Why didn't this?
Yeah.
One of the most important questions on top of that is this what you really want to do?
Right.
Right. And then going back to the ultimate gratitude of hearing something you've written, recorded by somebody else, and that gratitude, going back to expectations, I'd be totally fine writing for other people.
Yeah.
So, but in the meantime, that gives you the freedom and the leeway to do whatever the hell you want. You know what I mean? So, and that alone has reinvigorated my love and passion for putting this together, and then going in and coming up with a new concept. Yeah. That I've heard, like I've shared it with people, and they're going, "What the hell is this?"
Right.
But then there's other people that go, "Yeah, that fits."
Right on.
And I've gotten both of them. It's been 50-50 so far.
Right.
Which is fine, but in this life we have wins and we have lessons.
Right.
I've taken the lessons. This is going to be a win.
Right on.
Because it's authentic and it's true, and it's where I want to go for this next little chapter. Yeah. And it's different. Not many people are doing this kind of thing.
Right. Right on.
Right now. So, and I've always been in love with that kind of noise, as you like to say.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to look at your face as you're listening to it and see, and I want to get the reaction.
Right on.
But no, seriously, that's very important, of being able to adapt and evolve and not be afraid to try.
And there it is. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. Because look, somebody's going to tell you suck. Inevitably, at some point, somebody's going to tell you that what you're doing is shit.
If they're not telling you that, they're not the right people.
Generally the people who are the most critical of what it is you're doing. And my wife is a perfect example. Katie is a perfect example, right? I've been with Southern Oak Band for a long time. We've had our ups and downs, backs and forths, ins and outs, right? At no point has she ever blown sunshine up my ass about what it is we're doing. Not one time. And I would expect nothing less. She's an alpha elite athlete from college. You know what I mean? She knows what it means to be competitive.
Oh, by the way, people,
hard.
Do not get on a beer pong table with that one.
That's a nickel's worth of free advice. Don't. It's
you're
bad.
gonna lose.
Yeah. The reason Daddy doesn't play beer pong with Mama is because I can't hang, and I'm okay with that. I can't hang.
And it's intense.
Yeah, scary. We to the point where we were playing it on a floating beer pong in the pool.
Yes.
And getting just as crunk. And that's part of what I love about her is her complete competitive nature. Mm-hmm. There's no holding back. It's either you are doing what it is that is going to get you to the next level so everybody can be okay, or you're not. And because of that, I have taken some very forward and honest criticism from her. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't trade it for anything because it's those kinds of comments and those kinds of conversations that say, okay, so what do I need to do? How do I need to adjust? What do I need to make? Because she's going to tell me what everybody else is saying too, that they're super fans are super fans, especially if they know you personally. You know, most of my fans know me personally because I've been doing this forever. You know what I mean? She's got a huge social circle, so I've had a lot of people in my life who know me personally who's like, oh, that's great, whatever. Even though I know good and hell well what we did on that stage that night was not great. On more than one occasion have I had but on those shows, I know if I'm just being too critical on myself based on what Katie says. If she says, "Oh no, it was a good show. Everything sounded good. It was tight. I could hear you. Blah blah blah." Whatever the criticism was, I know in my head that it was a good show. If she says it was a good show, I also know in my head that if it felt like a good show, but it wasn't, she's going to tell me.
Yeah.
And her opinion is going to be the one that's going to be most honest. And without her, a lot of this stuff would never change. That's where you get stagnant, right? Mm-hmm. That's where you get stagnant. You don't change anything. You don't evolve. You're like, obviously what I'm doing is perfect, so I'm just going to keep smashing away at it, and beating your head against a brick wall. So it's really good to have people like that in your life. Before we wrap up, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this is going to be our first little segment on the Mike's Music Corner.
Okay.
Right? So I've had this kind of concept in my head for a while, just talking to musicians about the music that they enjoy, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
I have, and I'll share my Spotify playlist with y'all here. Once we get done with this, I'll put it in the link in the description. I have like 140 song playlist of literally everything from like Glenn Miller.
Oh yeah.
And the big band swing days.
Absolutely.
All the way to Busta Rhymes.
Okay.
Right? Chris Stapleton, mm-hmm. right? Lauryn Hill, like all kinds of just crazy stuff. And I haven't put any of my guilty pleasures on that one yet. I'm going to make a guilty pleasures playlist. It's going to be
That's a fun idea. Let's do that. Let's make that a challenge. Mm-hmm. I'll do the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm in. Pleasures. I'm down. Yeah. I'm totally down. I'll do that.
Okay, we'll do some playlists. We'll do some playlists and release them. But I always like to figure out where people kind of derive the things, the ideas in their head about music. Obviously mine goes back to my dad was a jazz swing guy, right? So I was raised on those Gene Krupas and Glenn Millers and Benny Goodmans from the 40s, 50s.
Oh yeah.
The crooners, the Sinatras and the Martins and the Bennetts and those guys. My dad was a soul and R&B guy, right? So it's the Temptations, the Four Seasons, the five, the Four Tops, the Al Greens, Al Jarreau's, you know what I mean? Mom was a classic rock chick, right? So it was Leonard Skinner, it was Led Zeppelin, it was the Allman Brothers, right? All the way up into like Duran Duran and INXS in the 80s. So I have this huge swath of music. Then, of course, being here in Texas, where you have this gigantic melting pot of music that has come together from globally, you know what I mean? Starting from the Spanish Inquisition or whatever the hell it was that brought them over here. The conquistadors that brought their music over, and the Afro-Cubano noise that kind of made its way to the mainland and then worked its way up through here. And we got the Tejano music. We got obviously country and bluegrass and soul and pop and gospel and all this other stuff. So I have taken a huge amount of music into my head, mm-hmm. and spit out what I think is a good amalgamation of it. My biggest influences obviously are going to be built around guitar and vocals because that's what I do. As a guitarist, I idolize Stevie, and I try to take from him what I can. John Mayer's much the same way because he has that natural blues timing and talent to it. And I love listening to. I could literally. That's the one style of music that I can listen to that I don't have to sing through. As a singer, I want to sing through everything.
Yeah.
The one style of music that I can just sit down, or the two guys that I can sit down and not sing, are John and Stevie.
Okay.
I can just listen to them play guitar.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
And John Mayer would tell you he would much rather be known as a guitar player than a vocalist.
Yeah, and in my head he said it.
He said it. Yeah.
In my head he is. You know, as a vocalist, you know, as a classically trained vocalist, obviously Luciano Pavarotti. If you haven't seen him, he's been dead for a little while, but he's one of the greatest vocalists.
Pavarotti's dead?
Yeah, he died a few years back.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Where was I? Playing songs on my guitar.
Right. One of the naturally talented guys, never studied it, just got up and boom, like, oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and as far as pop music goes, most of my influences are very heavily soul and R&B. Boyz II Men, Shy, Jodeci, H-Town, all the 90s, you know, soul groups, and then my dad's stuff going back to the Four Seasons and Frankie Valli and the Alex Rose and Al Greens. So I've taken, again, a lot of that and just kind of mashed it up into what I call bacon-flavored ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. Hope you like it. And it's worked out pretty good so far.
Yeah.
But, like, when it comes right down to the noise that you make, you know, obviously Garth Brooks is a huge influence. But who else kind of shaped how you hear noise and how you express it out of your face?
John Mayer is one. I told you the story when I got to meet him, right?
No.
At LSU.
Get out of here.
In 2001.
In his heyday too.
He had just signed. He had just got finished playing ACL.
Yeah.
Like, this was October when I got to meet him. He had just signed. He was already with the subsidiary label under Columbia.
Okay.
Then Columbia picked up. It was originally the album was Inside Once Out. Mm-hmm. They changed it to Room for Squares.
Yeah.
They did a couple more songs. They brought him up to the Columbia label, played ACL, was touring through Baton Rouge. I'll never forget it because it was my dad's birthday on a Thursday. I was the sports director at KLSU FM. So I had, and it was my big sports day. It was the week we played Ole Miss. Talking about Ole Miss.
Yeah.
To tell you how long ago this was, Nick Saban was still the coach at LSU.
Yeah.
Eli Manning was the quarterback for Ole Miss. Yeah. It was one of his first starts, too. Well, anyway, I go in, and it was my extra sports day because it was Thursday. I had sound bites from Nick Saban. I had sound bites from Eli Manning as well. And I go in, and the program director goes, "You're not doing sports today." I was like, "What are you talking about? It's my sports day."
Right.
She goes, No. John Mayer's going to be here.
Yes.
And I went, "Who?"
Oh, no kidding.
I had never heard of him before.
Yeah.
She's like, "You've never heard of him?" I was like, who the hell is John Mayer? Yeah. Had no idea. And I was like, "Look, okay, long story short, I'll make a deal with you. Give me one sports break.
Right.
Give me the 3:40, make it a little bit longer, and I'll give you the rest." She goes, "Done." And I was like, "You know what? I got to go talk to my professor. I got to go get this at the frat house. I got to go do this, blah, blah, blah. It's fine." Mm. So I actually recorded my sports break and gave it to him, put it on the old, not 8-track, but it was an old kind of tape thing.
The beta?
It wasn't beta. It was something. It was kind of like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it was similar to an 8-track, but it was something. It was weird. We had the old school stuff that one of the old radio stations didn't want anymore, and they just donated it to the poor student media at LSU. So got it done, recorded it, put the sound bites on that I wanted to. Went and talked to my professor about a package that I did for TV class. Went and got my lunch at the fraternity house because it was jambalaya day.
Yeah.
Actually, it was pastelaya day. You ever had pastelaya?
Yeah, bow tie pasta, right?
No. It's jambalaya. You ever had jambalaya?
Yeah.
Cajun dish. Usually has rice in it.
Yeah.
They made it with noodles,
like
spaghetti.
Right on. Okay, yeah,
awesome. So I went and got that, and then was walking back. I was like, okay, they're freaking out about this John Mayer guy. Mm-hmm. He's going to be there. Maybe I'm on the radio. Maybe I'll get to meet him and whatever else. So I'm walking to campus, or I'm on campus, back to the journalism building, which is right by Tiger Stadium. Mm. And I noticed the sorority bus stop is right across from the J school.
Okay.
Usually loaded with Greek letters and sorority girls and everything else. You need a date?
There you go.
Go say hello over there.
Yeah,
You'll get one.
There's the dating pool, literally.
Empty.
No kidding.
On a Thursday, and I went, that's peculiar. I go down to the basement where the radio station is, the TV station, the newspaper, the yearbook.
Yeah.
The whole hallway is filled.
Oh, wow.
Because they found out this guy was here. And I went, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
And I'm walking through, breaking, excuse me, I'm blah, 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 blah. and I get back there, and Libby, she was the program director. She's like, Erick Fayard, meet John Mayer. I was like, hey, John, how are you? He's a tall guy. He's really, really tall, like 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah.
He's like, you're the sports guy. You gave up your time. And I was like, man, nobody listens to me.
Right.
And he's laughing at my jokes and whatever else. And we're getting along fine. And end up getting tickets to the show that night. And I heard him play. I actually have 2 of the recordings. He played City Love live, and he played Back to You live.
Nice.
And you can hear at one of the ends of you hear some dipshit go, that boy's good. Guess who it is? It's me saying that.
Is it really?
It was me. And I got tickets to the show that night, and the girl I was trying to holler at, I was like, hey, what are you doing tonight? And she's like, I want to go see the show at the Varsity. And I went, John Mayer? And she goes, yeah. I was like, I have tickets. You want to go? She's like, oh, my God. Yeah. And ended up having a great show. And I was like, I'm going to be a fan of this guy. Yeah. And then finally I got into his music and listened to it and everything else. And yeah, he's he was the first artist that I connected with at not obviously at a younger age, but that was the next person after Garth Brooks.
Yeah, yeah.
And then growing up, I was inundated with Eagles, Beatles, Creedence.
Yeah.
And then obviously MTV.
Right.
When we grew up, that was music videos.
Infancy, yeah.
Right. And my older siblings, my sister for sure was always watching MTV. So whenever other kids my age were watching cartoons, I was watching music videos. Yeah. Michael Jackson's one.
Yeah.
The first, this totally describes my personality as a kid. The first music I bought with my own money, Weird Al Yankovic in 3D.
Yes. Yes.
Every picture that I took when I was 5 or 6 years old had every one of them.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was my first. What was your first?
Oh God, I'm fucking embarrassed to say it. I'm super embarrassed to say it. So I can't remember which one it was, but I lean towards one because it's way less embarrassing than the other. But it's a toss up between White Lion, Big Game, right?
Okay.
That one had the Little Fighter. Hey, little fighter, another word, no, there isn't. Right? Great album. Or Paula Abdul, Forever Your Girl. Right? And I can't remember which one I bought first. So I always lean towards White Lion because, as this guy, Paula Abdul, Forever Your Girl is not a good look, especially when you're in choir, when you're in high school, and everybody thinks you're gay anyway.
I'll make you feel better. My next one was the Bengals. Walk Like Egyptian.
All right. I feel much better.
Huge crush on Susanna Hoffs.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Once again, thank you, MTV. Thank you. Yeah.
And then we can get into Madonna's Like a Prayer out, and that's a whole nother fucking thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, back when she was actually still pretty. No offense, Madonna, but you look like an Asian lady.
I'm staying away from that one.
You look like an Asian lady.
That's all you, dude. Go ahead.
I'm not ashamed to say it. You know what I mean? I'm just black enough they can't say shit to me. The world's only black redneck from New York. You know. That does make me feel a lot better because I hear Paula Abdul now, and I realize how much production.
That was a dope album, though.
It was
in '89 and '90.
Yeah, the music on it was really good. But hearing her do like songs now, like
Cold Hearted Snake.
Yeah.
Woo.
But she is very pretty.
Mm-hmm. I know where you're going there.
She's extremely attractive woman. She's pretty smart. I mean, I've heard her give interviews. She's got a head on her shoulders. I don't necessarily attribute her to being a great musician. But she was a great pop star. You know what I mean? She stayed out of trouble. You know what I mean? She didn't.
Yes.
You know what I mean? She wasn't a whore.
That is correct.
Which we have a lot of in pop music, but that was my one of my first albums I ever bought. Oh God, not even. And then we go into the CD case era, right?
Yeah.
I had the 128,000 CD case, 4 per page, and
All right.
And you're doing this number.
What?
Right?
Yeah, no kidding. Did you have in your car? Did you have a changer?
Oh no.
No.
Oh no. Single disc only. For the first 2 years of me driving, I had the little tape adapter.
Yep.
That you had that's plugged into the
Sony Walkman.
Yeah, huh? And that's how I listened to my music in my car. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I had singles. Everything was singles, cassettes.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Jodeci and As Yet and Informer,
Snow.
You know,
Yeah.
all kinds of just garbage singles. Sixpence None the Richer, right?
Oh,
That song "Kiss Me"
yes,
was originally done by a band named The Laws. And I bought their single. It was like a $2 single at the car wash.
Wow.
Right, just a big bundle of little box of singles that just random artists that nobody had, that either weren't signed or didn't do much. Kiss me. That was the first time I heard that.
Yeah. Speaking of similar time, Natalie Imbruglia's "Torn."
Yeah.
That's not hers.
No kidding.
Somebody did that before that one.
No kidding.
It's some band. I can't remember who it was. I can't believe I just brought that up and it didn't have the band with it.
Right.
But yeah, that's a cover.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's really strange. I actually put together I'll share this playlist as well, Spotify playlist for famous covers, right?
Yeah,
just a bunch of random covers that people did of other people's songs. It's amazing you figure out how many people covered, how many really really successful musicians covered another musician who maybe wasn't so popular at the point where that song was, that made that song famous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's really, really astonishing. And I'll share my playlist on that here later.
Yeah, we could go all day with this, man.
But it's so now, okay, so guilty pleasures.
Yes.
So guilty pleasures, and I'll go first.
Go.
I have mine. Since I was a kid, my mom used to love Gloria Estefan.
Oh, dude.
Right. And I had this very deep affinity for Gloria Estefan as a performer. You know, that Cuban Latin beat that came out of Miami in the 80s, 90s, right? I loved. Plus, she is a smoke show.
She is a smoke
which
show.
never hurts. But her I'm going to say their full name. I'm going to say their full name because fuck that. The Dixie Chicks.
Okay.
And the Dixie Chicks are a separate entity in my mind. In my mind, aside from the Chicks that they are now.
Right.
And what they did as the Dixie Chicks, as a group of musicians, was one of the most stellar things I had ever heard. I know they didn't write a whole lot of their original stuff because Natalie Maines' dad was huge in the business for years and years and years, so she had a little leg up. But she had that voice that separated her from everybody else.
Oh, without a doubt.
You know
without
what I mean?
Question.
Because everybody back then was singing like Shania Twain. Right.
That's what. Yeah.
You know, it was Carrie Underwood. It was Shania Twain. It was what's Jody, whatever her name is. And not to say that they all sounded the same, but the kind of things that they were doing were very similar. Dixie Chicks came out.
Machine.
Dixie Chicks came out with Natalie's voice that had this pure, natural, easy power to it that separated them by light years from everybody else.
Yeah.
And to this day, I have the first 3 albums of the Dixie Chicks loaded in my Spotify that every once in a while I'm like,
that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I'm down.
I'm down. To add to that and to validate that, me and my roommates in the dorm at LSU used to listen to that while we were studying. So no, I get it, bro. Yeah. I get it.
They were amazing. They were amazing.
Get it, totally.
And then outside of that, you know, I'm pretty stringent as far as what I let into my head. You know what I mean? I shouldn't say pretty stringent. I'm a fucking Nazi about what it is I don't let in my head.
Yeah.
Just because I know what it is. But those 2 are by far. If I'm feeling like, oh, I'm having a crap day, I can pop in either one of those on a playlist and be like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Things are all right. You know what I mean? Sunny up your disposition a little bit, you know?
Absolutely.
So what about yours? Who you got?
First one right off the bat, the Spice Girls.
Really?
Absolutely.
No shit. I love it.
2 Become 1. Are you kidding me? Too Much. Another one.
I love it.
And plus it was high school and it was the Spice Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guilty. I mean, geez, who? I'm trying to think because I don't care if I like something, I'm gonna tell you, and I don't care what you think about it. And I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But I kind of want to think about what I've been afraid to be cool with. The boy band thing, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. I used to love all that stuff.
Right.
Which is also around the same time as Spice Girls too. That's hard. I can't really. I mean, in terms
Sugar
of
Ray and Ricky Martin.
Ricky Martin's another one. Going back to Gloria Estefan and Miami Sound Machine. Yeah. You know, one of my favorite. I don't want to lose you now. Oh, love that, man.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
I agree.
Oh man, like I to go back and quote Dave Grohl. Why can't it just be pleasure?
Right.
Instead of having guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
He said, he goes, I can proudly say out loud that Gangnam Style is one of my favorite songs of the past decade.
Yeah.
He said that to a panel at South by Southwest.
No kidding.
Yes. So from then on, I've been like, if I like it, I'm going to say that I like it.
Yeah.
So, and actually what's, funny, and another spoiler alert, and I didn't even know that this was even a genre or even had a name. I've always been a fan of 70s and 80s soft rock.
Sure.
Had no idea that there is a channel on XM that's called Yacht Rock Radio. I had no idea it was even a thing that even had a designation, right? Supertramp and Jerry Rafferty and Pablo Cruz.
Steely Dan,
right? And Little River Band and all. I was like, dude, I love this. All the stuff that's in Adam Sandler movies, right?
Every cheeseball
Steve
can't be 80s
Carell,
movie.
and I love that stuff. I always have.
Kenny Loggins.
And
That's great.
Oh man,
That's
and
great.
and I was like, nobody's doing this anymore, and there's a huge market for it.
I was working for an RV company, an RV dealership here locally, and all they played all day was yacht rock, and it was and you don't realize it until you're actually just sitting amongst it. Like this is actually like really good looking music.
Yeah,
this is really nice. Like it's calm, soothing kind of. It's not super aggressive or
Christopher
edgy.
Cross.
Yeah, right. Just provocative enough to be. Oh, yeah, I know what that means because I was around when it came out, but not so provocative that you're like, oh, I can't let my kids listen to that. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. And I agree. I don't care who knows it. I am a huge fan of that kind of stuff. I love it. Well,
I think you'll like what I just sent you.
I'm excited, man. I'm super stoked. I'm gonna take a listen to that and probably do a reaction video. I'll make sure to leave the audio out, but yeah, I wanna do a reaction video on that for sure, man. Just because I love.
I want to see your face when you're listening to it.
Yeah. I'll definitely broadcast that for sure, man.
All right.
I like I said, as somebody who's kind of watched you evolve as a musician, I'm always excited to see what you have in your pocket next. You know what I mean? That you're gonna expose to the world. So
appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure, man. It has been an absolute pleasure, Eric. Thank you for coming in and sitting down.
Thank you for inviting me.
Sure,
this was a blast.
We'll do this. I mean, I'll do this as often as you want to, man. I sit down and have this conversation without hesitation. We can pick whatever heavy stuff, light stuff, whatever you want to talk about.
Absolutely.
I'm down. I always enjoy talking to you, man.
For real.
Other than that, guys, thanks for being here. Happy, thankful, grateful. Y'all go check Eric's stuff out. I've got his
erickfayard.com.
Yeah.
ERICKFAYARD.com.
Go check it out. I'll put all the links and stuff in the description so you can get instantaneous access to all that stuff, both the Spotify and Apple. You're on Apple Music and
Apple
iTunes
Music,
and
Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, whatever DistroKid sends out to. Deezer if you're in the UK.
Gotcha.
I even think I'm on Tidal as well.
Okay, gotcha.
Wherever they keep adding different outlets and platforms and everything else, like all over the world.
I love DistroKid, man.
It's
love
great.
DistroKid. You can't beat it for the price.
No,
seriously.
Yeah.
Go check them out, guys. All the links and stuff will be in the description. Like, subscribe, share. When you check out his YouTube channel, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. God knows we need the subscribers. That's how YouTube makes us available and visible. So go subscribe. Leave your mark on the internet and let us know that you're watching. We are super thankful, happy, grateful that you guys chose to allow us to entertain your faces for a little while. As always, stay humble, stay good. If you can